Hello, people of Our Lady of Perpetual Help. This is your pastor with this week's installment of Flock Notes. And as we are here this week. Already the first week of August is upon us. And so with that, we are going to have our first Friday adoration this Friday, starting after the 8 a.m. Mass, going through the night, and then going through, we'll repose right before Saturday morning Mass, and then we'll have our normal Saturday Holy Hour after the Mass, and so we'll re-expose after the Mass. And so there's also a few other things that are coming up, and I made a list so I don't forget. So we, of course, this coming Sunday after the 7 and 9 o'clock Masses, we'll be having coffee and donuts. They'll be hosted by the Harbor House. The guys that are living in what was the old convent will be hosting coffee and donuts this weekend. And then coming up in the not too distant future is our annual rummage sale. That's September 20th and 21st, and that week prior, from September 14th through the 19th, is when we will be taking drop-offs so that we can get things ready for the rummage sale. And so start looking around those things that those things that are saleable that we may not use anymore that are around the house. You can collect those and then bring them to us. September 14th through 19th, we'll be collecting them, and then the 20th, 21st is when we'll have our rummage sale. And following right after that will also be our e-waste recycling. So if you have any old TVs, computers, all that good stuff that we want to get rid of, we'll have an e-waste recycling program going on here at Our Lady of Perpetual Help, like we've done in the past. And so we'll let you know the details of all that as it gets closer, but we can collect our stuff and drop it off because we don't want to throw our old TVs and computers just in the trash. It's something that we need to recycle. So with that, also coming up this weekend, we're starting the registrations for the upcoming year's religious ed program, both the K through 8 with Claire, and then in the high school program with Jorge as well. And so also too, so for those that are in need of sacraments, whether they've not been baptized, they need First Communion. Usually the First Communion on and then confirmation is part of the religious ed program, but there's always situations where somebody might be a little past the age when we would normally make First Communion, and they never made First Communion for whatever reason. And so there's ways to handle all that. And so Jorge and Claire will be starting signups this weekend in the Holy Family Center after all the Masses, and then going through past that as well. It's not like if you don't sign up this weekend, you've lost it all. No. We're just opening signups this weekend. And so for any of those children up to high school age that still need sacraments as well, there's a way we can do all of that. If people are post high school or 18 years or older and are in need of sacraments, Deacon Mark is starting this year. He started sign-ups and registrations for what was known as the RCIA program is now known as the OCIA program. And so for those that need sacraments, maybe they've never been confirmed, they've never made whatever sacrament, that's part of what we do for the Order of Christian Initiation for adults. And so those sacraments that we do need. And I can remember when I made my confirmation. Now, I was the last class in this diocese to make it in 8th grade. After we were done, they looked at us and said, we need to change this. That's when it got moved to high school, to around 15 and a half or so, is when the normal confirmation age is now. But when I made mine in 8th grade, my mother never made her confirmation before, and she decided to go through RCIA and get prepared for confirmation And we made our confirmation together on the same day at the same ceremony. And so, for any adults who might be in need of sacraments, like one thing I always remember from Bishop Brahm, our beloved bishop who was here for many years, he used to always say, "There's always a way out of no way." And when we think there's not a way, there's always a way. There's always a way with God. And so for anybody who might be thinking that, I can't make whatever sacrament because I'm too old or I'm this or I'm that, there's always a way. And so those signups are coming up this weekend for the school age, and for the OCIA for the adults 18 and over. Deacon Mark has already started signups, but they're continuing on as well. So with that, also, I wanted to talk about the readings you're going to hear this weekend, specifically in the Gospel. And we've started in the 6th chapter of John, and we're going to be continuing through that for a couple of weeks. And it's a very intense look, I think, at what's known as the bread of life discourse. And that's one thing that non-Catholic Christians, I've asked various friends of mine, what exactly did Jesus mean by this when he says whatever he might say when I quote the 6th chapter of John? And it's very interesting, the different answers that I do receive. But one thing I want to share with you is what you're going to hear this weekend. So we're going to hear from, I might help if I grab the right month of the Magnificat. And so we're going to hear from that 6th chapter of John. And in the ending of this portion of the gospel that we're going to hear, so they said to him. Now, previous to this, Jesus was talking about how his Father gives bread from heaven, and like your ancestors who ate the bread in the past and still died, those who eat this bread will live forever. So we pick up. So they said to him, "Sir, give us this bread, and give us this bread always." Jesus said to them, "I am the bread of life. Whoever comes to me will never hunger, and whoever believes in me will never thirst." And Jesus gives us his body and his blood as food for the journey. The bread that Jesus was talking about was he himself. We are to eat of this bread. And in that, the body, blood, soul, and divinity, the fullness of Christ, is in that little host. I remember Pope John Paul II, along with Pope Benedict, both echoed the same sentiments that says the answer to all the questions of the world are contained in that little host. Because that little host is the body, blood, soul, and divinity of Jesus Christ. That great gift that he has given to us, we partake of every time we come to Mass. And so we should never take that lightly. We should never just think it's another thing that, this is what we do during this time of Mass. We are making a sacrifice of ourselves when we come up in that line for communion. It's then that we are making that sacrifice of ourselves. And so that we can be one with Christ in his sacrifice, who, because of his sacrifice, has made us one with him and opened up the gates of heaven and wants us to be with him. And so when we are in that line waiting for communion, we leave there all the things that keep us from God, and we make of those things a sacrifice so that we can be one with our Lord when we receive him in the Eucharist. Body, blood, soul, and divinity, the fullness of Jesus Christ, is given to us every time we come to Mass. And so with that, I want to say I hope you all have had a great week, and don't forget to make an hour to spend some time with our Lord. We see our Lord, body, blood, soul, and divinity in adoration of the Eucharist. We adore our Lord, and we have our 24-hour adoration, of course, this Friday to Saturday. So make that time to spend some time with our Lord. And I hope you've all had a great week, and I hope to see you all in Mass on Sunday.